Today is going to be one of those follow-up days, I guess, where I come back on things I said in the previous video and enrich it with things you guys told me. Because A, I'm forgetful. B, I don't know my shit. C, you guys are awesome. Or D, all of the above. The correct answer, of course, being D. Now, before I do that, seeing this pseudo-wudo and actually using Thunderbolt on it reminds me of something. Even to this day, there are people who seem to think that rock types are immune to electric attacks, mostly because of Brock. I think everyone back in the day was told that, you know, Brock is a rock-type trainer, but his Pokemon are immune to electric attacks, and it seems that in the minds of many people, this meant that, you know, rock types were immune to electric attacks, whereas that is not the case. You just saw me use that Thunderbolt on Pseudo-Wudo to great effect. So, yeah, I think it's weird because you're still seeing stuff like that today, you know? Hey, don't use it on that. It's a rock type. It's immune to Thunderbolt. So, and I think there's also another one that's rather widespread to this day, Psychic being super effective against Ghost, because the Gengar line was the only Ghost-type line in the first generation, and it was also Poison-type. I still don't understand how that works. How the hell it's a Poison-type, but hey, I guess Game Freak knows better than we do. They gotta have their reasons, even though there's nothing poisonous about Gengar at all. But yeah, I'm surprised to see that in 2011, people still believe that kind of stuff. That and using certain button combinations to help your chances of catching Pokemon. I still can't believe people actually say it does anything 15 years into the series' history. But, wait a minute, why did I wuss out against this Sandslash? It's only level 27! I could have used Shadow Ball and I would have taken it down no problem. Then again, I suppose I'm so used to fighting Pokemon in the high 30s and low 40s by now that I just sort of assumed, oh crap, a Sandslash gotta run away. But no, I probably could have taken it down with my Raikou nonetheless. But anyway, back to what I actually wanted to talk about today. In the last video, I was commenting on some of the Dream World abilities that appeared in the Rugged Mountain. And at one point, I talked about Light Metal Metagross, which could be useful in the if you're faced with a low kick or grass knot user or whatever. But I've been reminded by one of you that this is not even the case. Metagross is so heavy that even with light metal, it's still hit for, like, max damage against low kick and grass knot. So, really? I'm wondering at that point if they actually took a look at Metagross's weight and, you know, saw that light metal wouldn't do jack shit against those moves. So in the end, all Light Metal would end up doing is increase the damage taken by Heavy Slam and Heat Crash, which are two new moves that were introduced in Generation 5, where the heavier the user is compared to the opponent, the more damage it'll do. But wait! That's not all! Metagross, once again, is so heavy that even with Light Metal, it will always take minimum damage from Heavy Slam and Heat Crash. You can look it up if you don't believe me. There are only 3 Pokemon that are heavy enough that Light Metal would make a difference. For the worse, for the Metagross user, obviously, and those are Dialga, Giratina, and Groudon. Other than that, everything is lighter, meaning that Light Metal wouldn't do a damn thing to change the damage of Heat Crash and Heavy Slam. So, yeah, Light Metal Metagross is a joke. You have to look into it, sort of, but once you realize that, it's a complete farce. Anyway, now we are moving on to Route 14, where I believe Suicune is supposed to be right now. And look at that, we got Cameron the photographer, so, you know, let's just take another photo for posterity. There we go. Sadly, we're not going to have the same thing as in, you know, I think it was the Elite Four at the end where you saw a Crobat's wings come out of Lapras's head, and it looked like Lapras had those massive purple ears. That was sort of cool. Anyway, another tip that one of you guys gave me, and I looked it up on Smogon, and it's for real, is that I said in the last video that Sheer Force Hariyama didn't have access to the elemental punches, which is only partly true, because they probably saw it coming and they decided to make Ice Punch one of Makuhita's special moves in the Dream World. Now, they could, usually they will have two special moves, those Pokemon in the Dream World, and Makuhita is no exception. So we got Ice Punch. Now you'd think the second move would be an Elemental Punch, like a Fire Punch or Thunder Punch, right? Wrong! Helping Hand! Helping Hand? Helping Hand! Seriously, what they were thinking? That thing is desperate for another Elemental Punch, and you give it Helping Hand? Really? I mean, come on, it's not like Hariyama is such a top-tier Pokemon you have to starve it out of options so it becomes balanced over the long term. Hariyama needs all the help it can get because right now, well, I wouldn't say it's not very good, but it's certainly no match for all these powerful fighting types that are running around. And I'll be honest, using Hariyama, I sort of try to avoid it because of the simple reason that it's an extremely bulky Pokemon, and yet its best option when it comes to fighting moves is Close Combat. Now, using Close Combat might be useful on something like Infernape because it already has paper-thin defenses, but for something bulky like Hariyama, I'd like to have another option that wouldn't reduce my defenses. And you got stuff like Cross Chop, which has high power and high critical chance, but it misses a lot. It's a perfect clone of a Stone Edge, or rather, Stone Edge is a perfect clone of a Cross Chop, since Cross Chop came first. But still, it's sort of annoying, so if you don't want to use Cross Chop, you're going to be forced to use Brick Break. Force Palm is actually stronger than Brick Break if you have Sheer Force, because it takes away the paralysis chance and increases the power to 78 to Brick Break's 75. But either way, 78 power with no chance of an added effect at all on your main attacking move, that is still a bit low, and seriously, it's like you just can't win when deciding to use a fighting move with Hariyama. It's either you cut your defenses, or you're inaccurate, or you don't have enough power. So, yeah, how come it doesn't have something like, I don't know, maybe Hammer Arm or something like that? I know, or better yet, Drain Punch! Drain Punch would be amazing on Hariyama! Because it would do loads of damage thanks to that massive attack stat, and it would also recover HP to help with Hariyama's natural bulk. That would be amazing, but unfortunately, it's not an option right now. So, right now, Hariyama is something that I reluctantly, am going to classify as a Pokemon that desperately needs a particular move in order to have any sort of success, and it doesn't have it right now. And while I'm on the subject of the Dream World, I might as well comment about the new minigame. Remember how I said the one in the Spooky Manor was actually pretty cool? Well, the one for the Rugged Mountain sucks ass. It blows chunks. There are no words strong enough to describe how much I hate this minigame. If you haven't tried it out yet, basically it's some sort of minecart thing that's sort of reminiscent of Donkey Kong Country, except instead of having good controls like in Donkey Kong Country, here you have to draw some shapes into a square that's at the corner of the screen, and if you manage to draw it in time, then the minecart is going to jump to the upper rail and grab any gems that are there, because the purpose of the game is to grab gems while avoiding plants that are right in the tracks and will take away gems from you. But I guess it may not sound that bad when I say it like that, but it's because words cannot justify just how badly this was made. For one, the time you have to draw those shapes is very, very low. So you might be trying to jump onto a higher railway in order to avoid some foliage or whatever. But then, the time limit is so small that it's very difficult to do it unless what you have to draw is like a diagonal line or something like that. So, yeah, it's extremely hard. Maybe I'm just not used to it yet, but still, it's something that is meant to be able to, pick it up and play right away. You don't have time to, try and figure out the controls. So, yeah, this minigame is absolute shit. The good news, however, is that, as far as I know, and this goes for the Spooky Manor minigame as well, it doesn't seem like there's any score that's required to actually befriend the Pokemon. I know the 4 mini-games that were there from the start had requirements. For example, when you look for a certain Pokemon, you have to do it within the time limit. Same for the Sky Race. You have for the ice cream mini-game, you have to go at least 20 inches, which is not difficult at all. And for the Wailord minigame, you have to burst 15 balloons. But those 2 new minigames don't appear to have any sort of requirements at all, which is good, because that last one in the Rugged Mountain is horrendous! I know, this is a level 41 Sand Slash, so it's totally worth wussing out against. Oh, it wasn't even going to use a ground move. Does it even have one? I guess I could check the Poké Earth. But then again, if I start looking up moves for every trainer I'm likely to encounter, it's just going to be too much at some point. So, it's just best to, be ready for, every possible scenario. Now, okay, I was just talking about Dream World minigames and score requirements. Seemingly there are no score requirements for actually getting your special moves onto your Pokemon, because I was absolutely terrible on my first attempt at the minecart minigame, and I still managed to get Outrage on that Bagon. So, it's probably just, completely random, because I say I sucked, but I had to try, figuring out the controls, and even after I had figured them out, it's still rather tough to draw everything that you need to within the time limit. So, yeah, why couldn't they have just gone with a more user-friendly control scheme? What was wrong with what was in Donkey Kong Country, for instance? That I'm just completely unable to understand. It's like they're really going out of their way to make it as shitty as possible and only rely on the Dream World abilities to get people to play them, and that is not the mark of a good game. Not at all. A good game is enjoyable, even if it can be rewarding, and oh man. Well, at least this video is just about to end, so I'm gonna head to the Pokemon Center anyway, and oh wow! Nature Power actually drew Earthquake! Well, that was actually kind of cool. 16 damage, and after all, it is a Budew, but still, that was actually sort of cool. But what I don't understand is how it survived my Shadow Ball. I mean, it's an unevolved Budew of all things. What the hell? Anyway, Route 14. Suicune was supposed to be somewhere in here, but no, it really doesn't look to be in there. So I think I'm gonna end this video now. I'm gonna look up what I did wrong, and I'll come back to you with that once that is done.